The Dunfield Retirement Residence offers customized living options to complement your independent, active lifestyle. Welcome home. Welcome to the Dunfield. Visit us at thedunfield.com to book a personal tour.
That's what it sounded like just over a week ago as Moncton's annual Santa Claus parade saw crowds of people line Main Street to watch a bevy of floats. Some displayed Christmas trees all lit up, and even Santa himself waved to everyone from atop a giant sleigh. And the city is one of the sponsors of the event. It coincides with the city's own Christmas tree lighting held a few days later at a local park. So it came as a shock last week for the Moncton Jewish community when their leaders contacted City Hall to make final arrangements for the annual menorah lighting ceremony that was set for this coming Thursday, a tradition that's been taking place outside Moncton City Hall for decades. Actually, this would have been its 20th year. But the community was informed by the mayor, a councillor, and some city staff members menorah lighting is no longer permitted there. A new policy bans all displays of religion on city property, and that includes the usual Christian nativity scene showing the birth of Jesus. The Jewish community was stunned. Why ban the menorah when there are municipal trees and angels and other Christmas decorations all over the city and the parade? It's left some wondering about whether the decision is connected to a surge in anti-Semitism around the world, linked to the Israel-Hamas war.
We are not seeking to politicize Hanukkah. I believe they've done so. By banning the menorah, that is politicizing Hanukkah.
I'm Ellin Bessner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, December the 4th, 2023. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, sponsored by Metropia. By now, I'm sure you've all heard about Moncton's decision to not permit the menorah lighting this year. I wrote about it myself on Sunday for the CJN website. Moncton's small Jewish community says they feel deeply hurt and excluded from the city's pledge of being a diverse and welcoming community. Within hours of being told the news, local Jewish leaders started a lobbying campaign to oppose what they feel is discrimination. They contacted the media, including me. They sent emails to the mayor, Don Arnold, and to all the councillors, urging them to reconsider. Somebody named George Hannon launched a change.org petition, and it's racking up thousands of signatures. Meanwhile, condemnation has come in on social media from across Canada, and even the town of Hampstead says it will light a second menorah in solidarity. The mayor has not replied to our emails, but at least 3 city councillors have now come out against the decision, and they want it discussed at a public council meeting set for tonight. We'll hear from Ward 2 councillor Daniel Bourgeois a little later, but first I'm joined by Leigh Lampert. Lampert's on the board of Moncton's only shul, Tiferes Israel Synagogue. He's a lawyer born and raised in Moncton. He now lives in Toronto. Tell me what the steps leading up to you discovering that this was not going to happen this year. Tell me how it all came about.
Sure. By way of background, for roughly 20 years now, it's been an annual event where the menorah has been lit at City Hall, and there's been guests in attendance, often the mayor, etc. This year, when the president of the synagogue reached out to the mayor's office to try to schedule things for this year, there was a bit of back and forth, which culminated in a meeting earlier this week with the mayor, one of the town councillors, a member of the city communications staff, and a few members of the shul's board of directors. And the mayor explained that the council had taken a decision that the menorah would not be permitted at City Hall this year, and neither would the manger. And the decision was, the meeting took place behind closed doors without any notice to anybody, as far as we're aware. There was no opportunity to present any arguments, to have any discussion. Council did this on their own without any notice.
And the menorah, is it the one that the community owns? Tell me about the menorah.
I don't know the history of the menorah. It may be owned by the community or maybe by the city. In fact, at one point during the meeting, they offered it back to us. They said, do you want it? Do you want to place it elsewhere? And someone responded that we're not interested in a consolation prize. And
the explanation was because of a Supreme Court ruling in 2015 that basically making the point that religious prayers at public meetings, I guess, hurts the human rights of atheists, right?
With respect to the Supreme Court case itself and the rationale for the decision, the mayor explained that, council believes that City Hall is the people's house and is not the appropriate place to be displaying religious artifacts. Yet Christmas trees, angels remain. And so it was a bit of a bizarre rationale, if I may say so. Someone then offered if we'd like to have it in a city park, which seems to fly in the face of the argument. If you're separating church and state, you can't pick and choose which artifacts are permitted and which aren't, and you can't pick and choose which city properties you'll allow artifacts on and which you won't. But by definition, once you start picking and choosing artifacts, which artifacts are allowed and which aren't, that by definition is discrimination. That's exactly what discrimination is.
I mean, Leigh, if you're looking at this from an optics point of view, of all times to decide this, just when Jewish community members in Canada are under attack, and I mean that in terms of physical, graffiti, online, because of anti-Semitism linked to the war in Israel, but it's happening here in our country. Your own synagogue was also had an incident. Why do you think the timing of this is so curious?
Look, deep down, I would like to make very kind assumptions about everybody, and I would like to make the assumption this decision has nothing to do with anything going on worldwide. We asked that very question, and there was no real answer other than, it's something we've been talking about for years. When they cite a case that was decided 8 years ago, and suddenly, a week before Hanukkah, we're advised of this, and as you mentioned, everything else that's going on in the world politically, it does beg the question, and we asked the question, because again, we want to make kind assumptions, but there was no answer. The other point we made in the meeting is the menorah is a Jewish symbol. It's not a political symbol. It doesn't represent a particular country. We are not seeking to politicize Hanukkah. I believe they've done so. What's ironic is the mayor talked about this in the context of, equity and diversity and inclusion, and she said it's all new to us. And if in a world where we talk so much about diversity and inclusion, this is about as exclusive as it gets. And when the point was made or the comment was made, this is all new to us, I said, well, why now? If it's new to you, let's take the time to get it right. Let's not rush it the days before Hanukkah. Let's have a public discussion, not behind closed doors, but one where people can give opinions and council can contemplate and hear from different sides and make an informed, educated decision rather than rushing it behind closed doors.
Tell me what the situation in Moncton has been for the Jewish community. Could they be afraid that that's what happened and there would be vandalism and there would be violence?
Look, I think the right thing to do in Hanukkah, as has been done for a couple of decades in Moncton, is to have the menorah lit at City Hall. If that causes any kind of criminal activity, which we hope won't occur, but we don't know, then that should be dealt with by the law. But I don't think fear of potential vandalism or fear of potential criminal activity is a reason to do away with the tradition that's been there, and that is in the exact spirit of diversity and inclusion.
Is it a new mayor?
No, she's been there for several years.
So she's done this herself? She's
done it herself, and she made a reference to that in yesterday's meeting. She said that she's attended the event. She loves attending the event. She'd be happy to support us in other ways. She asked us what that would entail, how she can support us. And the message was reiterated, which is that this is not the time, for no apparent reason, to ban a menorah from City Hall. This is the time to stand with the Jewish people and others, celebrate Christmas, celebrate Hanukkah, celebrate all religious events.
Did they celebrate Diwali?
The mayor on her Facebook did have pictures from Diwali, and she spoke about Diwali yesterday in the meeting and made a comment to the effect that Diwali is a very nice celebration, and she spoke very positive of it, as she should. We don't object. Just to be clear, I don't object to the mayor celebrating Diwali with those that celebrate.
I mean, finally, to be fair, and I don't see it that way, but many Canadian people will see a Christmas tree and angels on the, street lamps as kind of holiday-ish, non-religious decoration, even though they're clearly not. But even Russian Jews use Christmas trees because that's their tradition. So perhaps they themselves don't understand. They maybe think, it's just a tree. It's not like the nativity, which is religious, right?
I understand that they may have thought that, but a Christmas tree and an angel to many is religious. And to be crystal clear, I'm not calling for a ban of the Christmas tree. I love to see Christmas trees and Christmas lights and angels. And if they want to have crosses and candles and bows and lights, and they can coexist with the menorah, the Hanukkah, and any other religion's symbols. I just think you have to be consistent.
After the president of the Jewish community, Francis Vail, penned an email asking council to reconsider, Ward 2 councillor Daniel Bourgeois was one of 3 politicians who said he was concerned about the lack of transparency in how the decision was made and about how inconsistently the policy is being applied. He's also skeptical about the explanation from Moncton's legal advisors, who said they're just trying to follow a 2015 Supreme Court of Canada ruling from 8 years ago that found reciting a Christian prayer before a council meeting discriminates against atheists. Councillor Bourgeois joins me now. Can you walk us through? I know you're not able to divulge confidential debates behind closed doors of council, but what you can say is what you remember how this comes about.
Well, we received an email from the acting city manager on, I think it was November 21st, informing us, members of councils, that staff was going to, on their own volition, decided to not display the manger and the menorah in front of City Hall, and not put up decorations of any religious nature in the other city facilities or parks or streets and stuff like that. And I think my reaction and the reaction of most of members of council was, wait a minute, this is not a staff decision. This is not an operational decision. This is a political sensitive issue. So it's up to council to make that decision. So we asked a few of us that we discussed this in the next council meeting, and the following meeting was last Monday, so about 8 days ago. And it was, I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, it was a private meeting that was scheduled. But normally the private decisions come back to public council for ratification. However, the way that the decision was recommended by staff was a directive of council, and they have told us that a directive of council does not need public ratification. It didn't sink into me in my mind, because all decisions taken in private should be, with very few exceptions, land transactions, for instance, should remain in private. But it didn't dawn on me, and I was reminded the next day, no, it's not coming back to public. It's not going to be ratified in public. And so a lot of us, I think, a lot of members of council, I can't speak for all of them, they'll have to speak for themselves, but are concerned with the process and how this came about. First of all, that we were sort of informed by staff that their decision was to do this. And secondly, that we're not going to be debated, as I thought we would be debating it, in public. So it's a little bit frustrating as a process, I have to admit. My personal preference would have been to have a consideration of just pause for the moment, keep the status quo, and then next year ask our social inclusion committee to consult with all the religious groups in Moncton in order to see if we could exhibit all of the religion group symbols, regardless if it's in June or December or January, it doesn't really matter, sort of to be inclusive of everybody that way. But nobody else on council seemed to agree with my idea, so we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. The rock between, we recognize some groups or we recognize nothing at all. And so the majority of decisions said, all right, given that choice, we can't pick and choose what religious groups we're going to honor. We might as well say no to everybody.
How did you vote?
It's a private meeting, so I can't go into the what the discussions were in detail, because I could lose my seat.
The Jewish community obviously says Christmas trees are, not secular, and neither are the stars or the cross. Do you think maybe, or did it occur to anybody in the council that they forgot that what they think is normal is actually a Christian symbol? And so that's why they didn't get rid of the tree in the park or take down the angels from the decorations of the, of the buildings. It wasn't done as an assault, but as more ignorance, if you know what I mean.
I don't think it was implicit. Staff in the email of November 21st were very clear that there, in addition to the menorah and the manger in front of City Hall, there were other exhibits of religious symbols throughout the city on city municipal property, including Centennial Park. And as we later found out, in Louisville Park, which are municipal facilities. So I don't think so. Maybe they just forgot about these other instances, but I reminded them, Santa Claus Parade is in honor of St. Nicholas. So either we rename it to something else and include, in addition to Santa Claus, other religious groups as symbols or floats or whatever the case may be. So we either go all in or nothing at all. And if we go nothing at all, which was the decision, we have to go all the way. We have to eliminate every single one. That's not my position, but you're right. There are still remnants of, and it may be just an afterthought, but we were well informed by staff before the meeting, by that email, that there were a lot of religious symbols, especially at this time of year.
Are you aware of the hurt that this has caused to Jewish members of the Moncton community and family and friends all across the world?
Yeah, like I said, I've probably received, I'm going to guess at 80 emails, and the vast majority of them, maybe 90%, are from the members of the Jewish community. Not just Moncton. I would say the vast majority of these emails are from outside of Moncton, expressing their hurt. It has gone to the extremes of calling us Holocaust deniers and close to Nazi Germany. So some of them have really, but that, it testifies to the hurt, as you said, as to the visceral passion with which they are hit.
Did you also get reaction from the Christian community to this news, or did they also not know about the nativity scene?
Yes, there are, not directly via email, but I've received I follow a lot of Facebook groups, and that's the hot topic of the day. So I don't see any reaction positive to the city council decision. I would say 100% of them are against the decision.
This is a PR disaster for the city of Moncton. It's not a good look. How will you deal with this?
You're completely right. I don't know what communication was held between the mayor and the Jewish community. Somebody obviously informed the Jewish community that we were taking down or not displaying the menorah as we had done for the past generation or so. I do not know if the mayor communicated with the other religious groups, Christians especially, who we have exhibited the manger for, I don't know how long, before my time anyways, in front of City Hall. So I'm not quite sure exactly how the communication was about, but you're right. No matter if it was miscommunication, and even if it wasn't miscommunication from our part, it does come across as Moncton is taking down the menorah. That's not the case. It is the case. We are taking down the menorah based on that decision, but we are also taking down all other religious symbols, and that doesn't come across. Now, there is a request, a petition. Even some members of council have been discussing a reconsideration of that decision. We have a public meeting, so that it's not on the agenda as of yet, but it may be added. We will see.
Are you going to add it?
I'm going to ask, yes.
Last thing, the timing and the what's going on now in the world with so much anti-Semitism, you're aware of that. Did it occur to anybody that perhaps having a menorah would make sort of graffiti, or it become a target, and maybe they wouldn't have it for safety reasons, as opposed to this law that's 8 years old, right?
For me, it was never about the existing issue between Israel and Hamas, the war in Palestine. I don't make policies that way. It's never reactionary to. All policies are reaction to a situation, to a problem, but this wasn't the case for me. The present situation, if you will, the war in Palestine did not enter into my equation.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. You should know that Moncton isn't the only New Brunswick city where Hanukkah has run into opposition. In Fredericton, the Jewish community has long wanted to hold a public menorah ceremony at City Hall. But according to spokesperson Marilyn Kaufman, they were told several years ago Fredericton doesn't display any religious symbols. She pointed out that this isn't quite true because there is a public Christmas tree lighting ceremony in front of Fredericton City Hall every year. If you want to watch Moncton City Council meeting on Monday, the local Rogers cable system broadcasts it on their website. We put the link in our show notes. Thanks for listening to the CJN Daily. Be back tomorrow.
The Dunfield Retirement Residence offers customized living options to complement your independent, active lifestyle. Welcome home. Welcome to the Dunfield. Visit us at thedunfield.com to book a personal tour.